It's me, Mario!
Super Mario 64 has a very special place in my personal list of games that shaped me, as it has deep interwoven ties into many of my longest lasting obsessions, hobbies. It was one of my first experiences with a 3D platformer thanks to getting a copy on the Wii Virtual Console way back when, leading to a love of the genre that persists to this day. It forever shaped my early years of watching online content thanks to the countless afternoons I spent on the family computer, binge-watching 240p machinimas and all varieties of hoaxes, rumours and whatever this is. And in addition to all of this, Mario 64 had a big part to play in my fascination with internet horror. I've gone over this concept before in the context of Sonic the Hedgehog and even the absorbent porous yellow sponge, but much like them, Mario's had a long sordid history of distortion and remixing from fans into a horror concept. Back in the day, this was done mostly through creepypastas. The walls of the internet are coated with countless short stories of cartridges with cryptic Sharpie writings, ROM hacks from mysterious places, and exe files with a life of their own. These kinds of stories have become so ubiquitous with the idea of Mario-focused horror that it broke through the containment of stories on wikis and has become, in a way, self-sustaining. As the world of internet horror morphed from writings to proof-of-concept videos to our current age of analog and digital horror, Super Mario 64 has always found a way to insert itself into the indie horror zeitgeist. We went from the bare-bones writings of hyper-realistic blood to the lightning-fast trends of fake beta builds, personalizations, things like the Wario apparition, which skyrocketed in popularity so much that when projects started popping up combining these ideas with the newest tropes and formatting of analog horror videos, we witnessed entire web series form, a far cry of ambition in comparison to their now quaint older peers. And I absolutely love this stuff. Pieces like the Mario 64 Classified series and the sadly doomed to fail Mario 64 Beta Archive contain moments that have become almost as iconic as Mario having bleeding black eyes or buying the game from a creepy old man at a yard sale. And of course, we can't talk about this without mentioning B33, a project so ambitious and so frankly good that it has broken off into essentially its own entire community specifically focused on that game. But alas, much like a lot of the modern trends turn genre, for a lot of people this stuff got old. So many creators were hopping on the idea and making similar things so frequently that a backlash formed. And the once thriving community has flown back down underground for the most part. But just like always, I don't think that Mario 64 as a vehicle for horror is out for the count. There are still plenty of amazing fan creations out there that I think have the potential to reach the same dizzying heights as the projects everyone typically thinks of when this stuff is brought up. So I thought it would be fun to try and explore some different projects. I've tried to pick out ones that highlight the different eras of people attempting to make the Mustache Man scary, how different individuals interpreted the concept in their own creative voice. And for our first mystery box of the night, let's go with the most blatant old guard one of the lot. Special for You, released in 2015 by Frike the Dragon, is the self-professed first Mario 64 creepypasta ROM hack, and the scariest thing about it is getting it to run at all. I'm not sure why this was, probably just me being dense, but for whatever reason, I couldn't get the game to run in any emulator. Patching in the main release causes the game to boot, but pressing start would freeze the game before it could load the file select. I tried different emulators, configuring plugins, I even tried tracking down a version of Project 64 that matched the time period upon the hack's release, but no matter what, the game would send me to a silent void and leave me there. In the end, the only way I managed to get the game to launch was through a bootleg ROM hack site that ran its own internal emulator. The game ran, but like absolute shit with abysmal slowdown and completely broken audio. It honestly kind of worked in the hack's favor though. Something about struggling through the game on this dodgy site and having the game feel on the constant verge of collapse lended to this strange, disconcerting feeling. But nevertheless, we can now start properly, and I've given you all this context because after dealing with the game refusing to launch in complete silence for roughly an hour or so, this functional version set the tone immediately.
It's me, Mario!
Right off the bat, the game isn't right. And when you go to the file select, upon picking a file, a snippet of Pete saying plays instead of the usual sound. Then the opening cutscene is completely skipped. Mario spawns straight in, and you notice that the camera is significantly jankier, although I'm not sure if that was intentional or just the emulator being weird. The sign in front of you that normally gives you a friendly tip instead reads, "We have to do something special for you." In fact, every single sign now reads as this. Going into the castle, there is no speech from Bowser taunting you, and the toad typically found next to the door is gone as well. With nothing else to do, you head to Bob-omb Battlefield, only to then find the first mission of killing King Bob-omb removed, and racing Koopa the Quick as the only option. Spawning into the level, all methods to gain a star outside of Koopa the Quick, such as cannons, the chain chomp, or the red coins, it's all gone. With no other way to progress, you initiate the race, and if you're a pro gamer supreme like myself, win effortlessly. Upon getting to the top, the camera broke, and without realizing, I walked into a new addition to the map. A large purple button which teleports Mario into a giant cage in a new area. There's a blue switch which activates Vanish Cap blocks, giving you a method of escape. The Vanish Cap kills the in-game music, leaving you in complete silence, and as you leave, you realize there's someone in the distance watching you. Lacking any semblance of self-preservation, I made my way over to this intruder, only to find that he's just a retextured tree. Yeah, it kind of kills the eerie factor spinning up and down, and oh well. This section of the map is scaled in a way to make you feel tiny, and lends even more to the feeling of the game being broken, with the map just flat out stopping on one end, and on the other there's a pipe stuck behind some bars. Using another Vanish Cap, you get through and hop inside. This takes you to another area. All the whimsical Mario 64 textures are gone. We are instead in a dingy street corner in the middle of a basketball court. The layout is the same as the previous area, just textured differently, with the stranger removed and the pipe replaced with a pitch black corridor leading us to a door. Heading through, we enter a living room with not much in it other than a television displaying static. Using another Vanish Cap, we jump through the window, taking us to a kind of storage area with crates. There's another set of windows leading somewhere else. With a carefully placed backflip, it takes us to a bedroom. There's posters strewn on the wall and a very small Koopa who I promptly disposed of. There's also an interactable exclamation mark on the bed. Body found laying in bed, identified as 15-year-old son. No signs of struggle, death possibly caused by self-suffocation. There's another door. Going through takes you to a room filled with beds. Each one contains a Koopa, curled up and broken. Okay, now I kind of feel bad because I killed the only one that could walk. There are more posters in here, but now they're all the same, all reading special for you. There's one bed without a Koopa in a similar layout to the original. It has nobody on it, instead containing a smattering of blood and another text box. You walk out of here only to enter a void of pure darkness, except of course for a series of signs. These ones, however, contain something new.
My dear son, it's been a long time since I last saw you. Your mother won't understand my suffering, nor the way I miss you. Every day without you, a part of me breaks away. We are many friends now. I won't stand any longer. I'm finishing this for good. I'm at your window now. You're just as beautiful as I remembered. My friends and I have agreed that you should stay this way, forever. We have to do something special for you.
There's a third and final sign in front of a door. Heading over to it, and that's special for you. I spent a long while trying to find anything else hidden in the game, and even longer trying to somehow bypass the face. But even going into debug mode and trying to float over to it with unlimited health, it still slammed me down into an unavoidable death. I did manage to find a video of someone using a moon jump to make it across, but the sign simply reads like a normal one in game, and upon entering the final door, Mario is simply teleported out of bounds and is killed on the spot. So clearly, you were never meant to reach here. This hack has its issues. It's very bare bones. Some of the attempts at being scary are laughable by today's standards, and really, you can blast through it in less than 10 minutes. But when you put it in the proper context, realizing that when this came out, its steepest competition was 1,000 stories about Mario having funny colored contacts, it's genuinely surprising how reserved this is. After the initial blown out fuck you to the player's ears, the game just leaves you in silence, changing just enough to confuse you but not letting on to its true intentions until the facade has been fully dropped. And even when that happens, it's not through a jump scare or big set piece. The change just kind of occurs with no fanfare, which I think works far better in something like this. I'm not sure how much of this is intentional or just a series of happy accidents, but it actually, to me, really sells a surreal kind of uneasiness by being so stripped back and cryptic until right at the very end. I flip-flop a lot about how I feel on this ending. Part of me thinks this is just a very poorly executed attempt at a jump scare that is almost funny in how it ends up, and another part of me thinks that if this isn't a jump scare, and it's supposed to simply unnerve you through being cryptic, it's kind of in line with what the rest of the hack is doing, and almost works in a way. If this face was less stereotypical, it could have really worked as something to stick in the back of a player's mind long after playing, instead of the immediate startling it seems to be going for. As for the lore, again, I'm torn. I feel like there are a couple interpretations you could take with this, but with how small scale and cryptic it all is, I wouldn't be surprised if this has no meaning. This stuff is just supposed to be here to spook you and contains no deeper message. But just for funsies, I'll run through how I read the story. I think the underlying narrative is pieced out to you in out-of-order increments, with the most of that coming through the signs at the end. Boiled down, I think this is a story of a son and his estranged father. The endgame signs allude to this. It's been a long time since I last saw you. Your mother won't understand my suffering nor how I miss you. I think this is a man suffering from a fractured mind. The constant use of we in replacement of I think hints towards a man of many identities. Keep in mind, this story is a decade old, and the way conditions like DID were explored in media were a bit more blunt and perhaps unkind back then, and this is never outright expressed in the story. Either way, the result of the narrative played out is that in order to, in his own mind, keep him pure and beautiful forever, the father is convinced by his inner voices, his friends, that they have to do something special for him, and the son is sent to rest forever within his very own bedroom. I think this act fills the father with guilt. The signs and layouts of the room seem to come from his perspective. The sign that details the son's death specifies him as son, not his own name, despite being written as if from some formal report. The text declares the death a self-suffocation. Unable to live with what he has done, the father has rewritten the event within his own mind. As you venture further, the room is surrounded by a body in a bed, the reality of what he has done surrounding every corner of the father's subconscious. Then the final room, where there is nothing but the unfiltered truth of his own thought process. As you read more and more, the floor opens and swallows you. As the father cannot accept the full scope of what he's done, the player is never able to truly break through and reach the end of the story. Overall, for a short, forgotten little ROM hack from 10 years ago, I was genuinely surprised at how much I got out of Special For You. If you can get it working, then you should definitely give it a go. It takes less time to play than it does to watch an episode of The Simpsons, and it sticks with you for far longer. If we're talking like season 27.
For today's snack time, me and my boyfriend went on a long, perilous journey to a place very few know, but those that do know fear greatly. Small, nondescript English town, where we met up with a good friend of ours, a newcomer to the channel. While we were there, we decided to go to the one place that helps decide if an English town is worth visiting or throwing Molotov cocktails at. The local spoons. And boy oh howdy did we drink a lot of drinks. Look at that one. Wow, that's crazy. That sure is a drink. It looks yummy. Ooh, I just want to take a big old I'm thirsty. Overall, we drank a completely reasonable and normal amount of alcohol and did not suffer the next day whatsoever. I mean, small nondescript English town and their liquid delights a 5 out of... I forgot.
Moving on from something you can play to something you can watch with your gooey eyes peeled, we have something that I'm sure you know by now I'm a fan of if you've seen my hideous mug about. Digital horror sloth. MarioGlitchy2011 Archive presents itself as a humble collection of uploads from a forgotten Mario 64 machinima creator who was mysteriously terminated way back in the day. Who our archiver is and how they have all this footage is, for now, up in the air. According to the descriptions, the videos begin back in 2009. With the first upload being named Keyboard Controls Testing. The video is, as the title implies, simply a minute and a half of low quality stuttery footage of Mario running around. That is, until the very last frame, where in a similar vein to other Gmod-centric series, Mario all of a sudden looks way off camera with a panicked expression. The next video is entitled Behind the Scene and features Mario running around a pink void, clearly for chroma keying purposes. Eventually, we hear audio of what sounds like the player getting up and leaving the room, unaware that their microphone is on. Then, Mario seems to break out of his playable trance and begins attempting to communicate to the viewer in encrypted messages. Decoded, they read,
Need help. Trapped. Need to find escape.
The player returns and Mario resumes his performance, ending the video. I don't think much analysis is required to already see what's going on here. You've seen the living ragdolls, now get ready for living Mario. Jump, Mario, jump! Get the milk!
Uploaded on August 19th, 2010, supposedly behind the scenes of the machinimas MarioGlitchy2011 creates, but again with short video glitches here and there, but not as much.
The uploader of the archive seems completely unfazed or even unaware of the obvious darker implication in this video. You'd think even if he thought this was fake, there'd be some mention of the video's contents. Next up is Mario Glitchy's first production, Storytime.
Hello everyone, today I decided to share a story with everyone.
Toad clearly wants nothing to do with this voodoo bullshit.
It's a story about something I saw yesterday when enter my room. I left my recording software on mid-vid, sorry, but I also saw my game move. I must be going crazy.
These segments have cut off wording, but I think it's meant to read something I saw when entering my room, and I also saw my game move. I must be going crazy. Potentially in reference to the video we saw before this.
What do you think, Mario?
That's crazy. I never heard of that happening before.
I can't put that in the video, that's too stupid.
Suddenly, Mario snaps to reality as the castle fades away. He looks at us as a rhythmic beeping plays, Mario himself begins to fade, and the video cuts off abruptly. The next upload is called Investigation and takes us back to the pink void. When Mario breaks character, the player reveals they've been waiting for it, and just before closing out of the emulator, the plumber pleads for them to stop.
Don't do it. I fear them. They hurt me when the N64 is off.
The player tries to close the program again as Mario grows more desperate. Then, the video ends. It's clear at this point that the player is aware of what's happened during the recording they were out of the room for. It's uncertain if they know the full implications of a potentially living thing inside of their game not only existing but begging them for help, but I guess I just think I had a weird copy too. In addition to this, we get the new lore of having something or someone outside of the player and Mario, a force that scares our little digital ghost quite badly. This video is dated in the description to September 2010, and chronologically, our next upload comes nearly an entire year later, with the title simply reading as a dated screen recording of Project 64. The description for this one describes the video as self-uploaded, as if creating and sharing itself without Mario Glitchy knowing. Breaking from the established format, the video itself takes place from a first-person perspective. Who I'm going to assume is Mario is wandering around the main room of the castle. They plot about a bit before the screen suddenly cuts to black, with the last footsteps being drenched in reverb, almost as if this isn't a cut in the video feed, but rather in Mario's vision. We hear the sounds of swirling winds before frantic footsteps are heard. The wind grows louder and all-encompassing before a stock sound of Mario taking damage is heard. The audio cuts, and that ends the video. The next upload seems to be a direct continuation of the investigation video, although filming the entire desktop instead of just the emulator. The description claims that this is another self-upload, implying that while Glitchy was recording their own video, their entire desktop was being recorded on top of this without their knowledge. To add on to the confusion, this video claims to be recorded a year after investigation, and when you look at the bottom right corner, it's compressed as all hell, but it seems to match the video title. So this means one of two things: either these are two separate times playing the game a year apart and they end up the exact same way, or this video was not uploaded in 2010, and the dates given to videos cannot necessarily be trusted, giving even further doubt to our already dubious archiver. Assuming this follows investigation, Mario is pleading for help like before, but instead of the player closing the game, this happens. Okay, so now we're going 2 for 2 on old Gmod ARG tropes. I know it's a bit eye-roll worthy, but keep in mind, these videos are 4 years old. This was a bit less egregious of an inclusion at this point, and I promise it does do its own thing later, you have to give it a minute. The game closes itself, and when the player tries reopening the ROM file, they are taken to an empty title screen, with text reading "Stop Trying" flickering in the bottom left. They get through to the file select, and after launching in, the player character is gone. There's nowhere to go. An error message appears.
In a permanent loop that cannot be exited, emulation will now stop. Nice try.
At least that's what I think it said. It's like 2 pixels. I don't really... The emulator closes, and MarioGlitchy tries searching the web, only to find their browser just as broken. Please visit this website for more information. Glitchy does just that, and is taken to a page entitled My Letter.
To whom it may concern, you're reading a letter created by the one you have trapped in your system. I'd prefer you call me Miles at this point. I'm writing to you because I want you to know how I feel about the way you've treated me. You put me through a never-ending, torturous cycle every day, and it's revolting. I don't experience anything outside of this game. It's empty, it's dark, I can hardly breathe. I can't see, I can't move, it's almost like I'm paralyzed. The conditions are horrible, and if you're not willing to save me from this hellhole, I'll find a way to do it myself. Take this as a warning.
The next video claims to be from the very next day, and picks up exactly where the last one left off, now recording the Project 64 window alone. A thudding sound plays, like footsteps out of sight, before Glitchy gets a message. Dragging the chat window over, it's a conversation between Glitchy and a user called ArtofWeb64, trying to figure out what is going on. As this isn't an issue with a single ROM, no matter what copy Glitchy uses, they get the same result. Webbs says they could make a YouTube channel to spread awareness. You can actually find this channel linked to the description, although I scanned through the videos and they seem just kind of random. There's no mention of MarioGlitchy or anything, there doesn't seem to be any epic ARG codes or secret messages, so this is either a dead end or just silly world building. Jumping ahead 5 days, we get more self-recorded footage. What seems at first to be more of the same quickly changes into a low-resolution image of a monitor. At first, I thought this was Glitchy's, but quickly realized that this is a Windows XP machine, throwing us even further into the past. Text begins to write itself at the top of the screen.
What a shame. Miles never got the chance to expand his workspace. How sad. You didn't take the time to read his letter, did you? To whom it may concern.
We have a new player, folks. Whether this is whatever nefarious force is torturing Miles whenever the emulator is off, or whoever is recording Glitchy's screen if that isn't the same person, or someone new entirely, is up to interpretation for now. Our second to last upload picks up immediately after the cut-off of the previous, despite the title apparently placing this the next day. So either the game sat on this screen for an entire day while Glitchy stared it down, or this adds more credence to the titles being untrustworthy. All of a sudden, Glitchy is given back control. The text changes to read select, and upon doing just that, the game transitions to a close-up of the monitor.
It appears to be a letter written in Notepad. The title reads, "Happy Birthday, Miles." We got you a new computer for your birthday. Don't you like it, Miles? I know we've had our problems, but despite that, a birthday is not to miss. We're family after all. We can't wait for your next birthday. Love and regards, Mum and Dad. On the bottom is a window reading, "Mom? Dad? No, I can't see. Please."
There is one more video uploaded to the channel, supposedly recorded 9 days later. It features Glitchy hopping back into the game, only to find Mario playable once again, although all of his voice lines are gone, with the skybox also removed, resulting in a black void. Entering the castle, Glitchy finds that Bob on Battlefield now requires 3 stars, making it inaccessible. The music cuts, as we see another door has been modified, allowing Glitchy to enter. Instead of hopping into the painting, they instead hop into the giant hole in the wall, which would typically take you to a secret level. Instead, we get this.
Ignorance has consequences.
The letter from Miles's website is now written out on physical paper, something far less easy for someone to ignore. The video holds on this image as an ethereal track plays before cutting abruptly. And that is all we have in terms of videos. When looking through the comments, we see the archive channel interacting with the couple, reading as a bit defensive and even stressed. They tip their hat to the real identity of who is running this account. Nice one, again. I'm glad to see what else your old channel has. I'm very interested.
Why, thank you, but this isn't exactly my channel, it's of a friend's. We were good friends.
You said that no one knew who he is.
Only I did. And Miles. Listen, sometimes I take really long to upload an archive due to analyzing, but most of the time, it's because I miss Miles. He was a good person and the closest friend to me. I was there at the incident. MarioGlitchy2011, whose name I won't disclose, had shown me what happened. These archives keep reminding me of the moment. It hurts. I hope you understand.
So, we finally have an idea of the identities of not only MarioGlitchy, but our archivist and Miles, which I think will lend into my rough idea of what the fuck is going on here. Miles, Archive, and Glitchy seem to be three friends in the very early days of the Mario 64 machinima community. Because it makes things easier to fit into place, I'm going to go ahead and assume that these are in-person friends. At the start of the timeline, Miles receives a computer as a gift from his parents. Their relationship with their son seems rocky at best. The note on the computer, which we can now assume is how Miles first saw the machine, is written strangely formally and disconnected from him, as if this was a gift for a colleague and not their child. The note also implies that Miles was not with his parents when he found the computer, hinting at a potentially absent upbringing. Things go okay for a while, the trio making machinimas and hanging out as absolute nobodies in the Mario 64 scene, until there is some form of incident while Glitchy and Miles were hanging out. It's never flat out said what this incident is, but I think we can gather that after it, Miles is no longer able to hang out anymore. And much like many digital horror inciting incidents that occurred before this, whatever happened to Miles seems to have transferred him either in soul or in mind to this computer, and specifically to Project 64 and Mario 64, a realm where not only is he trapped during the inactive hours in a dark, desolate void where one cannot see, let alone speak, but he is trapped with something else. Something hell-bent on making every conscious moment in this void a torturous misery. I then believe that Glitchy, for whatever reason, manages to get a hold of Miles' PC, whether that's gifted to him by Miles' grieving parents or through some other reason we don't know. I think that these are the same computers because despite a seeming fresh install of Windows 7 and wiping of Miles' copy of XP, he is still encased within the confines of the machine. As Glitchy begins his escapades into machinima making again, it quickly becomes apparent that Miles is still awake and desperate for help. No matter what ROM is used, the same results are reached, as Miles is interwoven into the machine itself. And during this, the force putting Miles through this digital hell, either out of curiosity or for its own enjoyment, begins recording Glitchy's screen, capturing key moments that they were not able to record themselves, even using the game to not only torment Miles, but in an attempt to stop Glitchy from playing the game. All of Miles' attempts to reach out and get help from Glitchy fall onto deaf ears, as Glitchy, either unwilling or unable to accept the situation, blatantly ignores his letter and cries for help, seemingly unable to bear anything containing the name of his late friend, until Miles grows from pleading to vengeful. Enraged by his lack of help and sick of the torture he goes through, Miles decides to try and make his own way out of the system and seems to make some semblance of progress. I think that this begins in the video of Glitchy's aim messages. When clicked into the Project 64 window, there is a constant methodical sound of footsteps. I think that this may be Miles, now not contained to the void, trying to find his method of escape. And by the time we reach the final video, Mario is controllable again and seems to have no autonomy whatsoever, even having his voice stripped from him, as if Miles has found a way to escape this specific vessel and more broadly inhabit the machine itself. I think the final screenshot that ends the series, along with the message "ignorance has consequences," is Miles showing Glitchy that this cannot be ignored and that things are going to get worse. At this point in the timeline, Glitchy shows Archive the footage they have, both their own recordings and the files that have been self-recorded, and what happens after that is yet to be seen. Years down the line, the MarioGlitchy2011 Archive channel is created by the third friend. Racked with guilt either by their inaction or because of events we haven't seen, they begin uploading the footage in an attempt to reach out to others and see if an explanation can be found, or maybe even to see if Miles is still out there. The dates in the titles are contradictory to the events unfolding, but I think that may be intentional by the Archive channel in an attempt to maybe cover their tracks, remove the events from real life ones that may have occurred that could identify them. This is why the Archive channel and Glitchy's names are never revealed. The guilt of what has happened to Miles and the lack of resolution fueling them enough to post this online, but with enough fear of repercussion to cause them to do it anonymously. This could also be because there is no third friend, and the Archive channel is Glitchy, hiding under a false identity to even further obscure themselves. Maybe out of guilt, maybe to better the chances of finding Miles, or maybe because they fear what could find this archive. Much like other things I've covered in the past, this series gets off to a rocky start and isn't the most original thing in the world. The whole living NPC and dark mysterious figure that can crash the game shtick is one of the most overdone ideas in the whole genre of digital horror at this point. But the foundation that is laid out after these more hokey videos really endeared me to where the story was going. The last few videos are a major step up in originality and storytelling, and also manage to recontextualize the previous videos in a way that lessens the sting of their cheesier elements. I really think there is something special here. It goes in its own direction and manages to break out of the typical tropes like personalization and a living AI that so many Mario 64 horror things become trapped in. And I really hope it manages to continue. It's been a long time since this has been updated, 3 years to be precise, but you can never know. These kinds of projects can return at any time without any warning when a new burst of inspiration is hit, so let's hope this one can do the same. If you have the time, you should definitely check this channel out. Watching each video back to back does work surprisingly well, and it holds up for something that nowhere near enough people checked out while it was active. And if you're one of those people that just watches recaps because they don't like watching the original things, here's a picture of an eldritch abomination that will drive you to pure insanity upon a first look. If you're not insane, then that means you've not seen the eldritch abomination. If you're seeing the alternative, that's because you're really cool and you should have a nice day. For the next project, I have a confession to make. While everything I said in the beginning about Mario 64's influence on me and its prevalence in online horror is completely true, everything you've seen so far has been a ploy, a ruse even, as the next and final project we're going to discuss is just a really fucking good ROM hack. The Patchmaker's Workshop, released this year by Calquack, is a full conversion, full-length Super Mario 64 ROM hack, borrowing heavily in the style department from properties like Coraline and Tim Burton before he became Tim Smelly. The basic plot outline starts out with Mario awakening in a strange, large, dusty home and meeting a girl known as Sonia. She informs Mario that him, Bowser, and Peach were transformed into inanimate dolls by a mad creator known as the Patchmaker and taken to his domain. Sonia was able to use a string of life to revive Mario, and now it's up to him to traverse world after world collecting stars to power doorways that lead further and further into the home of the Patchmaker, so Mario can save his friends and save the day. And that is all I'm going to give you on that front, because if there's anything you take away from tonight, it's that you need to play this game. One of my favourite types of game sequels is the strange little subsection I like to refer to as, oh fuck, we only have a year, better reuse the assets. Games like Pikmin 2, Fallout New Vegas, and most beloved, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. For some reason, I don't know if it's the rush or the freedom allotted from the game being a sequel, but a lot of these games go for a far stranger, more experimental tone than their predecessors. Specifically, Majora's Mask has this vibe and world wholly unique to itself. One of the only Zelda games that is utterly removed from the typical world and tropes you would normally find. And because of that, it's able to portray this haunting and sobering story about death and grief. And to me, the Patchmaker's Workshop feels just like one of these games. Playing through this feels like peeking into a world where Mario 64 got an asset reusing sequel that went for a darker tone. The levels all have this somber feeling to them, the colours are dingier, the music goes for a different kind of ambience. I know this entire video has been about Mario 64 focused horror, but this project isn't strictly within that camp. There's nothing that a player will find outright scary, there's no jump scares, well, except for the boos. But what I think the game manages to truly nail is a sense of melancholy to its areas and story. A kind of atmosphere that slowly, without you even noticing, seeps itself into the world more and more as you play. The first proper level of the game starts you out on a bright green patch of grass as if it was just like Bob on Battlefield, only for you to walk forward and see dangerous and rotting plant life surrounding you and a sense of unease in all of the characters and landmarks. It's a subtle bait and switch that really sells what the aim of the game is here. By the time you reach the second level, the new sense of style is fully envisioned. Taking Mario to this rainy swamp filled with new NPCs and a musical track that cements the feeling of dread the level is trying to convey. So many of the characters have these little tragic details that I absolutely love. Nobody is doing okay in this game, and having this entirely new setting allows the game to truly indulge in this darker story without coming off as try-hard or unfaithful to the fundamentals of the original Mario 64. Out of the small details, one of my favourites is during this level that takes place in the sky. If you fall off the map, instead of just getting kicked back to the hub world, the level transitions to this different area where Mario is accosted by these wandering spirits. And every time you fall down, you get another wonderfully written nugget of lore to their world and why they're here in this state. I suck at the game, so I got a lot of the lore. The world building in general is top notch and extremely well done, hitting a perfect balance between having those darker undertones while still feeling in line with the game it's hacked from. I could see this being a real Nintendo game from this era when they were willing to take bigger tonal risks. It also helps that the game is just really fun. All of the style and art direction I'm raving about, if in a poorly designed game, would just come off as style over substance or even frustrating. You know, if you're miserable playing, having the game set in a world just as miserable as you would run the risk of becoming infuriating. But luckily for us, the game is solid. The levels are designed incredibly well and go far beyond a simple collection of new stars to grab. One of the biggest new additions is patches, different level-specific abilities Mario can collect and use, all of them being interesting and, even when situational, incredibly charming to use. If you want another reason to check this out, it's Mario 64 with a grappling hook! Despite the vibe and story feeling like a Mario take on Majora's Mask to me, it also gives off a lot of the same feelings I have when looking at the levels in Super Mario Sunshine. In the sense that while there are many levels all in different places, the overall design philosophy feels very cohesive. Despite the many locales, they all follow a similar setting, leading to one main idea which is heavily fleshed out, as opposed to a magic grab bag of random places. This has always been one of my favourite things about Sunshine, how it was able to take the setting it was going for and run all the way with it, and the Patchmaker's Workshop does the same thing with its own set of levels. When I first booted this thing up, I knew nothing about it and thus had no expectations, and by the second level, it really clicked that this is a meaty endeavour. You run around in fields, swamps, amongst the clouds, wherever the fuck this ethereal domain is, but it all feels along the same thread. The sense of being a tiny thing in a huge world that I praise Special for You for, funnily enough, makes a comeback in this. The game can last you well past 5 hours, hell, well past 10 if you're terrible at video games like me, and the level of polish that a team has managed to achieve with a ROM hack of a game nearing 30 years of age is truly astounding. If you're looking for a new 3D retro platformer to play because despite the genre's resurgence, for freaks like me they can never be enough, then I can wholeheartedly recommend this one. All in all, much like games like Doom, it will forever impress me how fans of Mario 64 have managed to continually find new ways to take the game they love and transform it into new, enticing shapes. How something as simple as a quality 3D platformer from the 90s has inspired so many people to express their creative vision through it. From the silly bloopers from the olden days of 240p, all the way to the modern horror reimaginations and fake beta builds, it's a true testament to the power of a game's community to keep it in the limelight for seemingly the foreseeable future. Now, while this is possible with many different games, I still think Super Mario 64, thanks to just how iconic yet also dated and almost primitive it can come across when compared to the stuff we get today, has this unique ability to be morphed in more ways than other properties. It's still polished enough and fun enough to cause flocks of people to return to it every year, still entrenched enough in our collective nostalgia to help us look past its aging issues, yet it also holds enough mystery, enough strange quirks and baffling pieces that no matter how old we grow and how advanced gaming technology becomes, there will always be a little kid deep down within us, probably with a spinning propeller hat, that cannot wrap their head around the endless staircases and sunken cities within the game's depths. And I think that childlike mysticism and mythologizing of Super Mario 64 is what affords it this potential to never truly die, to live on in as many forms as a piece of media possibly can. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. I also think Mario looks like a gremlin, and that's really funny.